The case against Robert Klein, convicted without a body. The fluorescent lights in interview room 3 had flickered twice since Detective Paula Warren sat down across from Robert Klein, but his expression hadn't changed once. His hands rested flat on the metal table, fingers spread precisely 2 inches apart, nails immaculately trimmed. Warren had spent 28 years reading people in rooms like this, and something about Klein's stillness felt practiced rather than natural. "Mr. Klein," she said, pen hovering over her notepad, "walk me through the last time you saw your wife." Robert Klein adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses with his right index finger. Tuesday evening, March 13th, Jennifer left the real estate office at 6:30. Her colleague Amanda confirmed the time. His voice carried the measured cadence of someone accustomed to explaining chemical equations to distracted teenagers. "And she didn't come home." "No," he blinked slowly. "She didn't come home." Warren waited. Most people rushed to fill silence with explanations, justifications, theories. Klein simply sat there, his breathing steady, his gaze fixed somewhere past her left shoulder. She shifted in her chair, the metal legs scraping against linoleum. "When did you realize something was wrong?" "Thursday morning, 9 o'clock. He paused as if calculating. "Approximately 38 and a half hours after I last expected her." "Expected her," Warren repeated, writing. "Not saw her. Expected her." Something flickered across Klein's face, gone before Warren could name it. Jennifer occasionally stayed at hotels when we argued, a cooling-off period, but she always took her purse, her phone. His voice dropped half a register. This time, both was still in the house. Warren leaned forward. "You argued on Tuesday?" "Monday night." Klein's fingers contracted slightly against the table. "About money." Jennifer had withdrawn $15,000 over the previous month. Small amounts. I didn't notice until I reviewed our statements. "That bothered you?" "It confused me." He met her eyes for the first time. "Confusion and anger aren't the same thing, Detective." Warren made a note. Behind Klein, through the one-way mirror, she knew the assistant DA was watching, forming opinions. She'd worked 6 no-body homicide cases before. 3 had resulted in convictions. All 3 defendants had shown exactly this kind of unnatural composure. "Mr. Klein, I need to ask, have you cleaned your house recently?" His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "I cleaned the bathroom Monday night. Jennifer had a severe nosebleed Sunday evening. The grout, the tile, blood is difficult to remove once it sets." "A nosebleed." "She's had sinus issues for years. The ENT specialist recommended." He stopped himself. "Recommended. Past tense seems premature, doesn't it?" Warren studied his face. The dark circles under his eyes looked authentic enough. His clothes, cardigan, khakis, scuffed loafers, matched every description neighbors had given of the quiet chemistry teacher who kept to himself. But those hands, those perfectly still, perfectly clean hands. "We'd like to search your home thoroughly, Mr. Klein. You'd be within your rights to refuse, to request we obtain a warrant." "I have nothing to hide, Detective." He spread his fingers wider. "Please, search wherever you need to." That was Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, Warren stood in the Klein's bathroom while the forensic team photographed every surface. The house was modest, well-maintained, filled with the accumulated possessions of a 14-year marriage. Jennifer's favorite coffee mug sat in the dish rack. Her reading glasses rested on the nightstand beside a half-finished thriller. Everything suggested a woman who'd stepped out briefly and intended to return. Except the bathroom. Warren ran her finger along the grout. Up between tiles. Fresh. Recently sealed. The chemical smell of industrial cleaner still lingered beneath air freshener. Through the doorway, she watched Robert Klein sitting on his living room couch, hands folded in his lap, waiting with the patience of someone who'd already calculated every possible outcome. Her phone buzzed. Text from the station. Jennifer Klein's vehicle located in garage. Purse recovered from kitchen counter. Cell phone found in bedroom nightstand, powered off. Warren typed back. Last known location of phone before power off? The response came within seconds. Last ping Tuesday, 11:47 p.m. Cell tower near Racetown Lake, 90 miles from residence. She looked up. Klein hadn't moved. A man whose wife had vanished should be pacing, demanding updates, calling relatives. Instead, he sat motionless, staring at the wall where wedding photos hung in careful chronological order. Warren walked into the living room. "Mr. Klein, when did you last see Jennifer's phone?" "Tuesday night. She left it charging in the bedroom." "You're certain?" "I noticed it specifically. She never went anywhere without her phone." His voice remained level. "That's why I didn't worry at first. I assumed she'd come back for it." But her phone pinged near Racetown Lake at 11:47 Tuesday night. For the first time, Klein's composure cracked. His right hand moved to his chest, fingers pressing against his sternum. "That's impossible. I was home grading papers. The phone was in our bedroom. I saw it." "Someone turned it on, Mr. Klein. Drove 90 miles. Made it register on a cell tower by the lake." Warren kept her voice neutral, then powered it off permanently. Klein's mouth opened, closed. His breathing had changed, shallow and rapid. "I don't understand." "Neither do I," Warren said. But she was beginning to. By Friday afternoon, search and rescue teams had deployed around Racetown Lake. Cadaver dogs tracked the shoreline. Divers explored the deeper sections. Local news vans lined the access roads, their satellite dishes pointed skyward, the accusations. Warren coordinated the search from a folding table near the boat launch, Jennifer Klein's photograph taped to her laptop screen. Auburn hair, green eyes, freckles scattered across her nose like punctuation marks. 39 years old, marathon runner, successful real estate agent. By all accounts, happy enough. No one had suspected the marriage was fracturing until Rachel Porter arrived at the station Wednesday evening, Jennifer's older sister, carrying printouts of text messages. Warren read them again now, Rachel's testimony echoing. Jennifer was planning to leave him. She'd consulted a divorce attorney. The last message she sent me, Tuesday at 6:45 p.m., said, "Can't do this anymore. He knows." He knows. Warren had asked the obvious question, knows what? Rachel had stared at her with red-rimmed eyes. I don't know. I texted back asking. She never responded. 5 days of searching yielded nothing. No body, no physical evidence, no trace of Jennifer Klein beyond that final cell phone ping and the unanswered text message. On day 6, Warren returned to the Klein residence with a different team. A forensic specialist named Dr. Elliot Cambridge, whose bow tie somehow remained perfectly centered despite the spring humidity, carried equipment that looked like it belonged in a science fiction film. Luminol, he explained, setting up lights. If there's been blood in this bathroom, we'll find it, even if someone cleaned thoroughly. Robert Klein watched from the hallway, his face unreadable. Warren had informed him of his rights. He'd waive them. He wanted to see, he'd said, wanted to understand what they thought had happened. Cambridge dimmed the lights, sprayed the luminol solution. Nothing for 5 seconds. 10. Then the bathroom erupted in constellation patterns of blue-green. Green light. The bathtub glowed. The tile walls showed spatter patterns reaching 4 feet high. The grout between tiles blazed like lightning strikes. Cambridge moved methodically, documenting, photographing. Warren heard someone's sharp intake of breath and realized it was her own. "Detective." Cambridge's voice was soft. "This amount of blood. We're looking at approximately 2 liters, maybe more. 2 liters. Nearly half the blood in an adult human body." Warren turned. Robert Klein stood frozen in the doorway, his face illuminated by the ghostly luminescence. For the first time since she'd met him, his hands were trembling. "Mr. Klein," she said quietly, "I need you to come with me to the station." "The nosebleed," he whispered. "I cleaned after the nosebleed. Sir, please turn around and place your hands behind your back." The handcuffs clicked shut with a sound like a period at the end of a sentence no one wanted to read. David Hansen spread 8 manila folders across his desk in precise rows, each labeled with a different category of evidence. No body, no witness, no confession. Just a mosaic of circumstantial pieces that somehow needed to form a picture convincing enough to imprison a man for life. "Tell me we have enough," he said. Detective Warren stood by the window, arms crossed. "DNA confirmation came back yesterday. Blood in the bathroom is Jennifer Klein's. All of it." Hansen opened the forensics folder. Dr. Cambridge's report ran 14 pages, but the conclusion fit in 3 sentences. Blood spatter pattern consistent with blunt force trauma. Quantity suggesting fatal injury. Cleanup efforts indicating consciousness of guilt. He looked up. "Cambridge will testify. He's already prepared his visual aids. The jury will see exactly what that bathroom looked like under luminol." Warren's voice carried the weariness of someone who'd seen too many crime scenes. "Hansen, I've worked homicides for 28 years. That much blood doesn't come from a nosebleed. Defense will argue medical emergency, a fall, something that scared her enough to run. Run where? Her car's in the garage. Her purse is on the counter. Her phone pinged 90 miles away at midnight, then died forever." Warren moved closer to the desk. "Robert Klein is a chemistry teacher. He knows about decomposition, about evidence degradation. His search history proves it." Hansen pulled another folder. Computer forensics. Between March 17th and March 20th, Robert Klein had searched. Pennsylvania no-body murder cases. How long does DNA survive in water? Cold water decomposition rates. Circumstantial evidence standards. The searches painted a damning picture, or a desperate man trying to understand his nightmare, depending on perspective. Searches were after she disappeared, Hansen noted. He'll claim he was researching because he knew he'd become a suspect. Then explain the life insurance policy. Hansen had already memorized those details. $50,000 policy, purchased 6 months prior. The insurance agent's statement sat in folder number 5. According to the agent, Robert Klein had asked specific questions about payout timelines and requirements for death certificates when remains weren't recovered. The agent says Jennifer signed off on the policy, Warren continued, but Robert initiated it. He asked the questions. And 6 months later, his wife vanishes without a trace. Hansen leaned back in his chair. Claire Hutchins took his case. Warren's expression shifted. The public defender who went private. She specializes in reasonable doubt. Won 3 impossible cases last year. Hansen had faced Hutchins twice before. Lost once. The woman knew how to make juries see shadows where prosecutors saw certainty. She's already filed preliminary motions. Wants to exclude the insurance policy,
The search history. Everything that establishes.
Establishes motive or planning. Judge Morris won't allow that. Judge Morris will allow some of it, enough to create problems. Hansen gathered the folders back into a stack. Grand jury convenes in 2 weeks. We need every piece airtight. The grand jury proceedings stretched across 3 days in June. 23 citizens heard testimony from Detective Warren, Dr. Cambridge, Jennifer's sister Rachel, and a nervous physics teacher named Martin Pike, who'd witnessed something he wished he could forget. Pike sat in the witness chair looking like he hadn't slept in weeks. His fingers picked at a torn cuticle while the prosecutor walked him through the timeline. "Mr. Pike, how do you know the defendant?" "We teach at the same high school. Robert handles chemistry. I teach physics. We've worked together for 8 years. Were you friendly?" Pike hesitated. "Professionally, yes. We'd carpool to conferences sometimes, share equipment. Robert was a good colleague." "On March 14th, did you visit the Klein residence?" The cuticle began bleeding. Pike pressed his thumb against it absently. "I stopped by to return textbooks I'd borrowed. Around 7 in the evening. Robert was in the garage." "What was he doing?" "Loading plastic containers into his trunk. Large ones. The kind you'd use for storage or—" Pike's voice caught. "I don't know. They were sealed. He seemed startled when I pulled up. Almost dropped one." "Did you speak with him?" "Briefly. I asked if he needed help. He said no, just organizing some old lab materials. But his tone was off. Distant. He kept positioning himself between me and the trunk, like he didn't want me to see clearly." "This was 1 day after his wife disappeared?" Pike nodded miserably. "But I didn't know she was missing yet. He hadn't reported it. I didn't think anything. Not until Detective Warren called me." Rachel Porter's testimony carried more emotion. She clutched Jennifer's final text message like evidence of life itself, reading it aloud 3 times as if repetition might change its meaning. "Can't do this anymore. He knows." Her voice broke on the last word.
Hutchins said, sliding a file across her desk. "Circumstantial, but impressive." "Thank you for the backhanded compliment." Hutchins smiled. "I'm providing you with our witness list. You'll find it interesting." Hansen opened the file. 3 forensic experts who testify that blood quantity could result from non-fatal injuries, states. Character witnesses describing Robert as patient, kind, and capable of violence. "You're arguing she staged her disappearance," Hansen said. "I'm arguing you can't prove she's dead." Hutchins pulled another folder. Jennifer Klein withdrew $15,000 in the month before vanishing. She consulted a divorce attorney. She told her sister she couldn't continue her marriage. Her diary, which you somehow failed to obtain, contains multiple entries about feeling trapped, wanting to disappear, starting fresh. Hansen's jaw tightened. "You found a diary?" "In her office desk, locked drawer. Your detective searched her home thoroughly, but never thought to check her workplace." Hutchins's smile widened. "She wrote extensively about escape fantasies, about walking away from everything. Dated entries, David. Admissible. She left her phone, her purse, her car. She left items that could be tracked. She took cash that couldn't." Hutchins leaned forward. "My client is a chemistry teacher with no history of violence, no prior police contact, no witnesses to any crime. You have blood that could have come from a dozen non-fatal causes. You have circumstantial behavior that could indicate grief instead of guilt. And now you have a victim who documented her desire to vanish." Hansen gathered the files. "We have her blood, 2 liters of it. We have his searches about body disposal. We have him loading containers into his car the night after she disappeared. You have pieces of a story. I have an alternative narrative." Hutchins walked him to the door. "See you in court, counselor." The media found the case irresistible. By December, 3 separate true crime podcasts have produced episodes examining every detail. Cable news shows debated the ethics of no-body prosecutions. Robert Klein's face appeared on magazine covers beneath headlines asking whether justice could exist without certainty. Hansen watched one interview against his better judgment. Klein sat across from a national news anchor, his posture rigid, his answers technically accurate but emotionally hollow. "Do you believe your wife is alive, Mr. Klein?" "I don't know what to believe." His voice remained level. "The evidence suggests violence, but Jennifer was resourceful. If she wanted to disappear completely, she'd know how to accomplish it." "You don't sound particularly emotional about that possibility."
Klein removed his glasses, cleaned them with a handkerchief. I've spent 6 months crying, Anchor. Eventually, tears become insufficient. I'm tired. I want answers as much as anyone. The interview destroyed him. Social media erupted with accusations. How could an innocent man speak so clinically? Where was the anguish, the desperation? A poll showed 73% of respondents believed Klein was guilty based solely on his demeanor. Hansen knew demeanor proved nothing. But he also knew juries were human. They'd watch that interview. They'd see the same cold precision that had unsettled Detective Warren in interview room 3. And they'd wonder what kind of man could discuss his wife's potential murder like a chemistry problem requiring solution. The trial date arrived like an appointment with inevitability. March 4th, exactly 1 year after Jennifer Klein disappeared. The courtroom smelled of old wood and nerves. Robert Klein sat
the defense table in a gray suit that hung slightly loose, as if he'd lost weight waiting for this moment. Judge Leonard Morris surveyed the packed gallery with the expression of a man who'd presided over too many tragedies to be surprised by human cruelty anymore. David Hansen stood for opening statements. Ladies and gentlemen, Jennifer Klein cannot tell you what happened to her. Her voice was silenced on March 13th, 2018. But the evidence will speak for her. Blood doesn't lie. Behavior doesn't lie. And when you examine every piece of this case together, you'll see not just reasonable suspicion, but proof beyond reasonable doubt that the defendant murdered his wife. He walked the jury through the timeline. Jennifer's last text message, the cleaned bathroom, the luminol results showing 2 liters of blood, Robert's container loading, his suspicious searches, the insurance policy. Each piece alone might mean nothing, Hansen explained. Together, they formed an unmistakable picture. You don't need a body to prove murder. You need evidence that a life was taken, and that evidence is overwhelming. Claire Hutchins approached the jury box with the calm of someone holding stronger cards than her opponent suspected. The prosecution wants you to believe that questions equal answers, that suspicion equals certainty. But our justice system demands more. It demands proof. Not theories, not possibilities. Proof. She paused. Jennifer Klein may be dead, she may be alive. The prosecution doesn't know, can't know. And that uncertainty is exactly what reasonable doubt looks like. Detective Warren testified for 6 hours across 2 days. She walked the jury through every step of the investigation, her weathered face showing the weight of 28 years pursuing truth. Hansen asked about the luminol testing. What did you observe when Dr. Cambridge applied the solution? Warren's voice remained steady. The entire bathroom illuminated. Bathtub, walls, grout lines, floor. The pattern indicated significant blood loss and attempts at cleanup. In your experience, could this amount of blood result from a nosebleed? No. The quantity and spatter pattern were consistent with traumatic injury. Claire Hutchins rose for cross-examination. Detective Warren, you've investigated 6 no-body homicide cases before this one, correct? Correct. 3 resulted in convictions. What happened with the other 3? Warren shifted slightly. Charges were dropped when the alleged victims were found alive. Found alive, Hutchins repeated. So sometimes people who appear to be murder victims are simply missing persons who chose to disappear. Sometimes. Did you search Jennifer Klein's office? A pause. We focused on the residence initially. So you didn't find the diary Jennifer kept at work, the one documenting her desire to escape her life, start fresh somewhere new. Hutchins pulled out a leather journal. The defense had to locate this evidence that suggests Jennifer Klein had been planning to vanish for months. Hansen objected. Judge Morris allowed the diary into evidence with instructions that the jury should consider the full context of each entry. Dr. Cambridge testified on day 4, his bow tie perfectly centered despite the courtroom's oppressive heat. He'd prepared elaborate visual aids showing the bathroom layout, the luminol patterns, the estimated blood volume. Hansen walked him through the science methodically. Dr. Cambridge, can you state with reasonable scientific certainty whether this blood loss would be fatal? 2 liters represents approximately 40% of average adult blood volume. Without immediate medical intervention, this would likely result in hypovolemic shock and death within hours. Claire Hutchins cross-examined with surgical precision. Dr. Cambridge, could this blood have accumulated from multiple incidents over time? Luminol doesn't distinguish between fresh blood and old blood. So if Jennifer Klein had suffered several nosebleeds, several small injuries over weeks or months, and the defendant cleaned each time, luminol would show all of it at once? Cambridge adjusted his glasses. Theoretically possible, though the pattern suggests a single significant event. Suggests, but doesn't prove. Science provides probabilities, not absolute certainties. Martin Pike took the stand, looking like a man who wished he'd never borrowed those textbooks. His testimony about the containers felt reluctant, each word extracted painfully. "Mr. Pike," Hansen said gently, "why did the defendant's behavior seem unusual to you?" "Robert is normally very composed. That night he was agitated, wouldn't make eye contact, kept blocking my view of the trunk." Pike's voice dropped. "Later, when I learned Jennifer was missing, that moment took on different meaning." Hutchins approached with visible sympathy. "Mr. Pike, you and Jennifer Klein dated in high school, is that correct?" Pike blinked. "Briefly, 25 years ago. You remained friendly with her throughout her marriage?" "We were colleague spouses. We saw each other at school functions." "Did you harbor feelings for Jennifer?" "Objection," Hansen called. "Relevance." "Goes to witness credibility and potential bias," Hutchins countered. Judge Morris allowed it. Pike's face flushed. "I was happily married to my own wife. Any feelings I had were ancient history." "But you noticed Jennifer's unhappiness in her marriage. You paid attention to her situation." "Anyone would notice. She seemed stressed." "Stressed enough to want to escape?" Pike had no answer for that. Rachel Porter's testimony brought the first tears to the courtroom. She clutched photographs of Jennifer, her voice breaking as she read the final text message aloud for the jury. "Can't do this anymore. He knows." Rachel looked directly at Robert Klein. "My sister was afraid. She was planning to leave, and he couldn't accept that." Hutchins's cross-examination was gentler, but no less effective. "Miss Porter, did Jennifer ever tell you she feared for her life?" "Not in those exact words." "Did she ever report Robert to police for violence or threats?" "No, but did you ever witness the defendant harm your sister in any way?" Rachel's shoulders sagged. "No." "Is it possible Jennifer used that $15,000 to start a new life somewhere?" "My sister wouldn't just leave, she'd tell me." "Even if telling you might make you an accessory? Might compromise her escape?" Hutchins's voice was soft. "Sometimes people who love us most are the ones we have to deceive to protect." On day 18, Robert Klein made the decision that would define everything. Against Claire Hutchins's visible reluctance, he took the stand. His direct examination was methodical. He explained the bathroom cleaning, Jennifer's chronic sinus issues, his habit of thorough housekeeping. He addressed the search history. "I was terrified. My wife was missing, and I could feel Detective Warren's suspicion. I researched no body cases to understand what was happening to me, not because I'd committed a crime." He explained the insurance policy as part of a financial planning package both he and Jennifer had agreed to. He described his marriage as imperfect but not violent, troubled but not dangerous. "I loved Jennifer. I still love her, wherever she is." His voice finally cracked. "I don't know if she's alive or dead. I don't know if she left me or if something terrible happened. But I didn't hurt her. I couldn't." Hansen's cross-examination was surgical. "Mr. Klein, you waited 38 hours to report your wife missing. Why?" "She had stayed away before. I thought she needed space." "Space from what?" "Our argument about money." "The $15,000 she withdrew? Money she didn't tell you about?" Hansen's voice sharpened. "That made you angry." "It confused me." "Confused you enough to confront her?" "We discussed it. We didn't fight violently." Hansen pulled out the timeline. "Your colleague saw you loading containers into your car on March 14th. What was in those containers?" "Old laboratory equipment I was taking to the school for disposal." "In the evening? After your wife disappeared? That seemed urgent?" Klein's composure fractured slightly. "I was trying to stay busy, to not think about where Jennifer might be." "Or you were disposing of evidence." Hansen moved closer. "Mr. Klein, you teach chemistry. You understand decomposition rates, chemical breakdown, how bodies degrade in water. Isn't it true that you used that knowledge to ensure your wife's body would never be found?" "No, that's not. I researched those topics after she vanished, trying to understand." "Understand what? How long you had before evidence degraded beyond recovery?" Claire Hutchins objected. Judge Morris sustained it, but the damage registered on the jury's faces. Closing argument stretched across 2 days. Hansen built his mosaic piece by piece, showing how each element fit together into an inevitable conclusion. "Every question has an innocent explanation," the defense says. "One question? Maybe. 2 questions? Perhaps. But 17 unanswered questions? That's not coincidence. That's consciousness of guilt." Hutchins countered with reasonable doubt. "Jennifer Klein wanted to disappear. She documented that desire. She withdrew money. She consulted divorce lawyers. The prosecution can't prove she's dead because they haven't found her body.
Maybe that's because there is no body. Maybe Jennifer Klein succeeded in escaping a life she couldn't tolerate anymore. The jury deliberated for 4 days. Robert Klein aged visibly with each passing hour, his hands developing a tremor he couldn't control. On April 3rd at 3:47 in the afternoon, they returned. On the charge of murder in the second degree, how do you find? The forewoman stood. Guilty. The courtroom erupted. Rachel Porter collapsed sobbing into her husband's arms. Robert's mother screamed denials. Robert himself simply closed his eyes, his face draining of color. Judge Morris scheduled sentencing for 6 weeks later. On May 15th, he addressed the court. Mr. Klein, the jury found that you intentionally killed your wife, though they rejected premeditation. The sentence for second-degree murder in Pennsylvania is 15 to 30 years imprisonment. You'll be eligible for parole after serving the minimum 15 years. Robert Klein stood to face his sentence. Your Honor, I maintain my innocence. But I'm sorry. Sorry for Jennifer's family's pain. Sorry that I couldn't protect her from whatever happened. Sorry that the truth remains buried. They led him away in handcuffs. Detective Warren watched from the gallery, feeling the hollow victory of conviction without complete certainty. Claire Hutchins gathered her files, already planning the appeal. 6 months later, a hiker exploring the remote northern shore of Racetown Lake noticed fabric caught in submerged branches, 200 yards from where the official search had ended. Auburn-colored, expensive material. Jennifer Klein's favorite jacket, according to her sister's tearful identification. The discovery made national news, but changed nothing legally. Robert Klein remained in state prison, maintaining innocence. The jacket proved Jennifer had been at the lake, but not how she'd gotten there or what had happened after. Detective Warren kept Jennifer Klein's file open on her desk. Some cases closed with convictions, but never really ended. Truth, like bodies, sometimes stayed buried, despite everyone's best efforts to bring it into light.